Hi, everyone. I'm Isabel Chiara. Welcome to my life actualization series. And today I am so honored and so blessed to have the amazing Evette Rose on this show. And so Evette, it's so interesting. I sent her a message asking her if she would interview with me because I use her book as a reference book. And let me show you her book. Metaphysical Anatomy. I have it right here. And it talks about, you're going to tell us what it talks about, but it's an amazing book that talks about all the, and I'm going to go into it, right? All the emotional components behind every illness. And so, let me just, Evette, thank you.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
Right.
Very excited.
Right.
Very excited.
And so Evette travels around the world and teaches people all her techniques and understanding of her, the theory behind metaphysical anatomy. And she's an author, and I'll show you the rest of her books, life coach, trauma release practitioner, and she supports people in their healing journeys. And she's the co-founder of a personal development company and founder of Metaphysical Anatomy. And she also wrote the book Finding Your Own Voice, which is amazing too. And you're going to tell us about why you even started to write and some of your childhood traumas that led you to this life. And you're such an angel when I've been speaking to you. And you're sharing how you healed from your past and helping others to experience healing in their own lives. So having said all that, Evette, yay.
We're here.
If anybody doesn't have this book, and if anybody doesn't have Metaphysical Anatomy and you are part of any kind of healing, you do any healing techniques or anything, this book is so important to read to find out where a lot of illnesses really stem from, the emotional component, the emotional belief behind it. So,
and it's on Amazon, available worldwide.
What did you say?
Amazon, it's available worldwide.
Oh yeah. I know everybody I know, like when we have our Theta healing class, and I just want to say I'm friends with many Theta healers. Everybody we use this book as a reference. That's how powerful this book is. And it's so helpful to help people through their process. It's an amazing.
Very happy. That was the purpose. I'm very happy to hear that it's supporting you to be great at what you do. That's perfect.
Yeah, it's great. But how did you even first of all, you just said, how long did it take you to write that book? Because you're so young.
It's 10 years. It's been a 10-year love-hate journey because of the fighting sometimes with getting the information out. It's the sitting down, is having to focus, and sometimes I have the information in my head, but it's not typing out on the screen right. So sometimes there was a bit of a writer's block happening and the flow wasn't always there, and sometimes the flow was there and just falling in love with it. So it was a 10-year process and it's still ongoing.
Right. And so but the information in the book is so, how did you even get all that information and decide to even do this book?
So how this all started was that we kind of, like anyone who is in the personal development industry, that we step into this for a reason, and that reason starts with us.
Right.
And then when we start to see all these beautiful changes in us, that's where we fall in love with the fact that we can change. We fall in love with the body's abilities and capacities. And we go like, wow, I just opened up this new challenge in me. I want to show you how to open that in you. Right. So of course we want to start sharing because, it's that beautiful giving aspect that we have within ourselves. And so my journey started with me. My life was a mess. It wasn't always this great. And I as everything in life, pain is a call to action, whether it's emotional, physical. And my life got to a point where the emotional discomfort became so painful that it literally called me into action. And so my journey started, just a fun spin on that. I was complete Christian and then shifted to complete atheist and then found personal development. And I thought, wow, this is like a whole new different paradigm that I'm jumping into. Just closed my eyes and I jumped because I thought, you know what? I don't have a better answer or resources to tap into, so I am going to explore this. Right? So we become open to things that we normally wouldn't be open to when we hit that place of unresourcefulness. And it's almost like life pushed me into that place of feeling completely incompetent, like my hands were chopped off, so that I can be open to something that I normally would have ignored. And so I stepped into it, and I saw the beautiful results and started changing my life, and I started sharing it with people. Word of mouth started to get out, and people started feeling happier, and things just changing in their lives as well. I quit my corporate job, and then I stepped into this. And as I started traveling and teaching these modalities, I started noticing similarities between people that when I was like, wow, you know, this is amazing how someone, you know, in your country can have an ailment, and someone in South Africa can have the same ailment, and somehow you share the same emotional stress components. There's a certain psychosomatic pattern theme that's similar. And I thought, wow, isn't that amazing?
Right. Eva, let's get right into some of the similarities, some of the illnesses, and what you found with it, because that's what, like, kind of what you are all about. So
absolutely. So I'm going to weave that example in and also answer this last question. So say, for example, what I noticed is someone with cancer, especially stomach cancer in Australia, and someone with stomach cancer in America, they all had a very bitter love-hate relationship with their mom. A lot of resentment. There was a lot of, you know, rejection, a lot of abandonment. Mom was either physically or emotionally unavailable. A lot of resentment, wanting and loving someone that you know you need, but you can't, because of the incompatibility between the two of you. There's an inability to relate, and so that relationship dynamics becomes your relationship dynamic with your life around you. And I thought, wow, this is interesting. But why is it that, you know, someone that has these similarities but might have had the same childhood, but they didn't get stomach cancer? Why is that? And so that's when I started to realize that, wow, listen, we need to look at the biological makeup, because there's a reason why some people are oversensitive and less sensitive to environmental stress and dynamic relationship stress. And I realized that it's purely because we have different life experiences and different ancestral predispositions that either makes you oversensitive or desensitizes you to certain life experiences. But ultimately, even though you might be very desensitized, so we might interpret that as someone being really strong, really confident, but, you know, they're just using anger as a barrier and also desensitizing themselves to how they feel. And we see that as a strength. But everything in life has a threshold. Everything. Humans, life, environment, everything has a threshold if it's pushed and pushed and pushed hard enough. Now, when this threshold collapses, that's when you start to see the pain. That's when you start to see what is being building up in the background. And so, for example, you'll see the theme of the psychosomatic patterns of these people with the similarities from, say, Australia and America with the stomach cancer, that there's a massive pattern of people with mothers and these relationships taking place over time.
Wow.
So, and it's just absolutely phenomenal that if we can look at an ailment, you can understand the person's ancestral history, you can understand their life history, you can understand their psychology, you can understand their isms, their secondary gains, everything in their life that's causing them pain, and have an instant answer for that. And I thought, wow, you know, I'm going to compile all these notes and keep it together. And the more I started realizing, wow, people are asking me too many questions. I want to serve. And the best way that I can serve is to write this down and spread it in mass volume. And that's exactly what I did. I did it out of frustration because I felt I couldn't give people what they deserve, which was the support, because I'm one person. So I thought, all right, let's put it in a book and just put it out there. Like, I did not really intend on becoming an author. That was not my goal. But now I have 6 books.
It's not your goal yet. Hold on a second here. We have Healing Your Boundaries.
Oh, that was a good one. That was such a great journey. Woo!
Right.
Yeah.
And we have Finding Your Voice. Since you didn't want to be an author. And then you have the Metaphysical Anatomy Technique book. And you're probably saying, this girl has all my books. Because I love your books.
I'm so happy to hear that. I'm really, it's wonderful.
So what do you think the best way, so someone that's not doing healing, that's doing healing work, that are trying to become conscious, what do you think the best way to start out with? I mean, first of all, everybody should have metaphysical anatomy, because just to, you know, there's people around you and you can see what's really up for people by just looking, this is a reference, what the emotional component is, and you could kind of see a pattern in your family, right? In your family and in people around you that are experiencing. What about like digestion? A lot of people in America, I don't know if they're having it in other countries, are having a lot of digestive issues like SIBO and stuff like that. What do you say that is? Is that part of the whole stomach?
I think when we look at the stomach, the first point of the stomach is normally relationships and challenges with the mother, challenges with the feminine, challenges with being nurtured, meaning now having trauma associated with something that used to be beautiful, and the need to reject that. Right. And then when you start to look at the smaller intestines, we're looking at conflict with family dynamics, and then the colon is normally dad. Now, when you look at the digestive issues that's taking place in America, you're looking at a country that's now gone from being a little bit, conflicting and challenging like most countries are, but it's taken such a shift now that it's almost like the outer dynamics of everyone that we're connecting with, because keep in mind, even though this is people from that you don't even know, we are genetically programmed to connect. We are genetically programmed to coexist with each other in communities.
Right.
Now, even consciously, we reject these people as being part of our community. Your biological makeup still responds to these people as we are together. But right. Look at conflict that's now taking place in that country where there used to be relatively kind of peace to it being flipped completely upside down.
Right.
Because your digestive system is a mirror of what's happening in your family dynamics. So now if you start to look at all the people that you're surrounded by and the constant conflict that's taking place on a biological level that you're feeling, because here's a very important point that people fail to miss continuously. It's not just about your family. It's not just about your conscious awareness of your friendships or mom or dad. The people around you play a tremendously big role in how you feel, because you are part of that collective consciousness. If you live in a suburb, you're part of that collective consciousness. If you are a victim of abuse, then you are part of that collective consciousness. If you are in America, then you are part of that collective consciousness. Now you have all these relationship dynamics coming forward, and now a connection that biologically has been kind of balanced is now being flipped upside down, and it creates conflict. It creates conflict between communities and creates conflict between people. We are not designed to be in conflict. And that conflict that's now being projected in your environment is now coming forward and is being mirrored in the digestive system as well, because that is where we hold family dynamics. That is where we hold community dynamics. So if that is disruptive outside of your life, it's going to be disruptive inside of you because your body is responding to that.
Right. So because there's so many children that are coming in with all of these problems right now too, do you feel that they're sensing that, in their environment, even if they're not really exposed to that, or are they picking it up from their family or what?
Are you talking about children coming into this life being born with digestive problems? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Let me backtrack it even more, because this is now getting really interesting.
Yeah.
Look at that child when it's in the mom's womb. I did this just 3 days ago in my event here in Sydney.
Yeah.
Look at the child when it's in the mom's womb. Now, the umbilical cord's connected to the child's digestive area.
Yes.
Now, look at what the mom's state of mind is. Look at the food that she's eating, and that the toxicity of the emotions and the stress and the fear that's being digested into that food, into those minerals. And that child's foundation is being built on that mother's emotional state.
Right.
And then you wonder why there's so much stress in their digestive systems coming forward when they're born.
Right.
Look at the children that were born with post-traumatic stress disorder when the Twin Towers collapsed. In the past, they used to say it's impossible for children to be born with post-traumatic stress disorder. It's something that you only develop later in life. Well, we all know that nonsense. It's not true. The trauma that the mothers observed and felt that day triggered a psychological disorder in someone that was set to only be able to experience when you're an adult. That child's limbic system hasn't even developed. The neurocortex hasn't even developed fully to its fullest extent in order to process information, to process trauma, and the instinctive response is not being able to respond even either.
Right.
But that shock coming through of what the mom felt, it actually triggered a very well-advanced psychological disorder, and a child that hasn't even experienced life. You know, so, and here's the thing, people sometimes tell me, I'm not traumatized. I never had trauma in my life. And I'm like, really?
Right.
Tell me about your job. Tell me a little bit just about your job. Are you happy? Well, no, not really. It's kind of like so-so. Okay, so how does it make you feel when you go into your job? I feel depressed. I feel, stressful. I'm like, okay, well, let's take that level of stress constantly over the next week or 2 months, years. If you don't change that, your stress hormones releases a chemical that releases cortisol for 20 minutes if you're stressed. Now, if you don't get out of that stress state, which is your job, that cycle continues to it restarts after 20 minutes again. So your body is constantly stressed. You're constantly overwhelmed. And like I said earlier in this talk, you have a threshold.
Right.
Everyone has a threshold. No one is above a breakdown. No one. So now you're being stressed, and the body is actually being traumatized silently without you realizing it. But now you're drinking alcohol, you're smoking, you're having a joint now and then. I'm not traumatized. Well, yeah, that's because you're also silently numbing yourself from feeling the damage that's building. So your coping mechanisms get stronger, and more out of hand. And then you wonder why you don't heal, because you're so attached to the coping mechanisms that's become your crutch and your saving grace. Now you can't walk anymore because you need this crutch. Metaphorically speaking, that's what's happening.
Right. It's a fly.
So I hope that's useful. Intelligence is everywhere, even in that fly. It's probably learning.
I know.
Feeding off vibration.
And you know what? The flies are getting a little more aggressive lately. They'll just land on you. They don't care. But sorry to disrupt that whole conversation, because it's so true. And just when you were speaking, I just didn't realize how deep it really went. You know, I mean, you can see like how some things are affecting, but then, I didn't even think about the being in the mom's womb when the whole 9/11 thing went down.
I spent a whole day just on the womb because of the incredible significance of that. Your ability to receive, your ability to manifest, your ability to feel a peace in your life, everything is either created or disrupted there, and it's incredible, absolutely incredible. Yeah.
When you say you spend a whole day on the womb, what kind of things do you do, and do you think that's a starting place for most people to look at?
It can be. It can be, because here's the thing. Womb work helps you to tap into states of consciousness. It helps you to step into states of consciousness that's always been there, that's now being that's now being bombarded with trauma and stress. Now, what happens is womb work is an aspect to the healing journey. It's a factor to tap into when you start to look at the quality of your life. Because remember, when you hear certain points in the womb, yes, of course, you're going to feel the changes. Absolutely. No doubt about it. However, what's most dominant is what we can feel as an adult. And that's the amygdala constantly firing off and being aware of what's going on. And then it's talking to the hippocampus like, hey, what's going on? The limbic system, the bigger housing of it. And then the frontal cortex calms it down. So now we have this aspect to deal with as well. So womb work is not going to heal, for example, rape trauma or abuse trauma. It can take you from a victim state into always being on a fight or flight state into a more calmer, more relaxed state and feeling safe within your body. Absolutely. But it's not necessarily going to wipe out the neural pathways that's holding the memories of this trauma. It's not necessarily it can decrease it, absolutely. But fully heal it, not in my opinion, no.
Right.
No.
Right.
Because states of consciousness cannot be used to override trauma that took place in your life.
Right.
That is one thing people don't understand about awakening states of consciousness.
Right.
The two separate aspects.
Right. Gotcha. So if somebody is just starting to look at their life, where do they start? In your opinion, it's just starting to be conscious about their life, and they gone through their life and everything's great, or it's okay, or they think it's great. Go ahead.
Here's the question. So I have two questions. The first thing is, there's a reason why you felt that you wanted to step into the personal development world.
Right.
You don't just walk into, you're looking to buy curtains, you're not going to go walk into a dentist shop, right?
Right.
You don't just wander around. You walk into a place with purpose.
Mm-hmm.
You walk into a place with the intended cause and reason for that. Sometimes we're not really aware of it. We just know there's a sense of discomfort, and we have a sense that maybe this can help us. So the question would be, what is so uncomfortable in your life that made you feel the need to reach out to this modality or to this establishment? And that's the answer. And whatever that answer is, that's what I suggest the person should address, because I teach in my workshops, and I said this again and again, just in my recent Sydney workshop. When you want to do healing work and everything in your life is okay, be okay with that.
Right.
That's awesome. Don't create a problem where there is no damn problem. Don't go sit there and think, oh, my life is great. I'm just having a great morning. My relationships are great. Oh, but I remember as a kid, you know, that thing happened and that made me feel that way, but it doesn't really bother me right now, but I really want to work on something. So I'm going to go dig up something that's not activated. I'm going to go dig up something that's not bothering me. And now, of course, you're going to have you're opening up a can of worms for absolutely no reason. Right. You have strings and strings and strings of traumas. Do you want to go through your life traumatized and always just wanting to heal that? Enjoy the good moments. Enjoy the good moments. You know,
that's so true. People that sometimes go on this path are constantly turning things over and searching for stuff.
Yeah, but the problem is they start doing that because they're actually avoiding going deeper. They're avoiding going deeper, so they create the drama to stay out of the really deep, painful points. Right. To just feel that they're doing something to feel competent in their life. Mm-hmm. I did that. That's why I'm saying that. Right. I had that pattern in the past, and it exhausted me. It exhausted me to the point where I developed chronic fatigue. Some people end up in psychiatric wards because they psychologically cannot handle all the traumas and the stuff and everything they're trying to dig into, and the emotional and mental and spiritual disorientation that it can cause. It's almost like, you know, something that can help you can also be your greatest downfall. If you don't use it with structure, if you don't use it with a clear goal, if you don't use it with clear understanding of what it is that you want and need, and what is your outcome going to be.
Good point, Evette. Good point.
Yeah, I'm talking from my own personal experience. Right. So I hope that, you know,
I'm listening to you too. I'm listening from my experience too, because you can just sit there and dig, and I gotcha.
Sometimes just take a break. Enjoy this beautiful light that you can see. Enjoy the fact that you can see with your eyes, or you can feel, you know, with your skin. You have arms, you can walk, you can you have legs. Just sometimes we need to go back to basics.
Right.
Sometimes just need to go back to basics, because that's where the joy is.
Right. So what are some of the healings that you've done on people just from the realization of what it was, and some of the underlying causes of some of these illnesses? What are some of the stories you have around that?
I'm just conscious of making claims just for legal reasons, knowing and understanding how our industry works and stuff like that. But let's say, for example, someone had anxiety. I had a client that actually had very severe anxiety. And I thought, wow, this is interesting. This guy has jumped through hoops and done everything, and nothing is working. Even medication is not taking it away. And I thought, this is very interesting. So, and the fact that medication didn't help me made me think, wow, there's not even a neurological problem. There's not really an issue with, you know, the actual nervous system, the communication between the heart and the mind, and like, what is the dysfunction here? Because normally when you look at anxiety, you know 100% that you have more than 3 instinctive responses that are in conflict. And the body is literally going into a state of distress because it doesn't know, am I supposed to fight? Do I hide? Do I freeze? What do I do? And it goes into meltdown. And it stays in that meltdown. Now, and this is because of the unconscious memories that's constantly being triggered. And the body staying in that state of distress. It's not moving out of the place of safety, meaning the frontal cortex is now failing to actually communicate clearly to the back of the mind, saying, hey guys, calm down. Right. There's nothing in the environment to show that we should be upset. Calm down.
Do you think people, when they're experiencing stress, actually have a visual in their head of processing that stress? Like they're actually seeing the moments, or you think they're feeling? They're doing like a couple of different things. They're seeing, they're feeling. Like what's really actually going through their brain or their mind when they're in that state?
I'll answer that question in a minute. I just want to answer your first question. So
Yeah.
I'll link up the. So what happened with this guy was he, for example, actually was having and holding and carrying and reacting to his mother's anxiety, which means, and the moment, and I found in the session, the moment, every time when she was so overwhelmed with being a mom, first time mom, husband was cheating, she was so, and her parents also warned her to not marry the guy. So of course your worst scenario. And every time when she picked up the child, I don't know if you can see me, but you're putting the child right here, heart to heart programming. Heart to heart programming. My need for safety was from my mother's anxiety. Wow. So we healed that moment, and the anxiety went away and it never came back. So that's just to give you an example of it. Now to answer your second question in terms of how do people understand and proceed with information and digest that. So when you look at someone, for example, with post-traumatic stress disorder, because there's two ways of processing it. And it also depends on the psychological disorder that the person has. So someone with borderline personality is going to see it differently. Someone that's just depressed is going to see it differently. Someone that's stressed is going to see it differently because of the wiring in the neural pathways and the way that the mind is set up to process information. So let's take it from one extreme to the other. We take an average person that's depressed. That person can be in a state of numbness, a state of that normally you'll see with them, the hiding instinct is normally most dominant as well. Right. And so for them, everything what they do is their RAS, the reticular activating system in the brain, which is what you feel is what you focus on, right? So if you're in a place of pain, that's all that you're going to focus on. If you're depressed, that's all that you're going to focus on. So what happens is that you unconsciously look for things in your environment to validate your emotional state. So of course now it becomes a loop because all that you see is sadness, all that you see is depression, all that you see is people with broken relationships, all that you see is people who don't like you. And you even look for their facial expressions on them, even though it's completely unrelated to you. People will actually go, but that's because of me. That's about me, but it's actually not. So it reinforces the state of depression. So it's basically seeing a world that's made up and set up based on your RAS. It's literally mirroring how you're feeling. So how they would see information, for example, it's more about negative thoughts. In that case, that's going to start looping in their mind because of the emotional state that they feel. So if they had an interaction, whatever they took away from that interaction, that's going to become their dominant thought until it shifts to the next one, until it shifts to the next person. So if they feel that person didn't like them, I'm ugly, people don't like me, I feel stupid, they think I'm an idiot. So that starts to loop depending on your self-esteem. Right? Not everyone who is depressed has a low self-esteem. So that I also noticed, which is really interesting. So now if you look at someone with post-traumatic stress disorder, for example, right, and they don't have that, the hippocampus, your emotional brain, the limbic system, that we store long-term emotional memory, especially sentimental emotional memories, positive or negative, that is actually damaged. There's brain damage in that case. And so what happens is that whatever they perceive as being a threat that the amygdala is triggered and it reminds them of a negative memory, the flashes of that memory comes back and it actually feels like it's happening in that moment. They don't have a moment like you and I do to go, okay, whoa, that was just a flash from the past. It's okay, nothing in my environment's happening. The body literally reacts as if though it's happening. So it's not even about having that conscious luxury of processing information and thinking, it's okay. I don't have to react. I don't have to go roll under that car or hide because I just heard a car backfiring and thinking it's a bomb exploding. And now I'm thinking back to my best friend that died in front of me. And, it's extremely real to them. Their body physically responds as though it's happening. So you see the difference between just these two aspects of someone's reality. And remember also what people need to understand is that we sometimes assume that we all see the world the same way. But now, keep this in mind. If a bird looks at the sun, does my existence cease to exist? It does. I don't exist anymore. Right? Mm-hmm. You judge based on your values, your beliefs, and on your pain and on your past. Well, your past and my past is not the same, so our judgment is going to come from such different angles. There might be one similarity where we can agree with each other, but the way that we came up with our perspective and our opinion is going to be so incredibly different because of different thought processes, because of different memories being activated, and the body comparing those memories and then evaluating what we see and what we can sense. So there are some things as a society that we can agree on to disagree on, but it's still going to be different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what do you think a lot of the outcome's going to be of what's going on? Like society feels a little split right now. We were talking about the conflict before. What do you think, like, illnesses that are going to show up, and what's your thought on some of that? Besides, we were talking about the digestive, I just feel like there's some more emotional type of, I mean, I feel like a lot of people right now are trying to not care about what's going on. Like there's a whole group that really care, right, and are really outspoken. And then there's a whole nother group of people that are like, yeah, no, I'm not going to even think about it anymore. Mm-hmm. What kind of illnesses do you think are showing up from that kind of behavior?
I think for me, what ultimately the immune system is, that's your castle.
Right.
The immune system collapses, everything else collapses. Now look at our society. It's attack, it's attack, it's attack, it's attack. Verbally, emotionally, mentally, physically.
Right.
The immune system experiences being that attack constantly from its environment. The body's constantly bracing itself to defend itself against something that's not even happening. Mm-hmm. Now, when you look at all these stress hormones being released, the cortisol being released, and this trauma being stuck in the nervous system and also in the autonomic nervous system, which is special muscles and nervous systems just specifically for our instinctive responses. Right. We sometimes forget about the biology and not understanding how it works. Now, look at that constant state of distress. It's depleting your body from minerals. It's depleting your body from vitamins. It's depleting your body from calcium, everything that you need to physically be strong. And it depletes your immune system. Your immune system is clogged up full of toxicity. Right. It's literally like a blocked sewage pipe that we literally almost turning into. It sounds like it's a terrible analogy, but really that's kind of what's happening.
Right. Yeah.
Now, what does the body do with all these toxins? Now, it depends on your psychosomatic stress. Your emotional stress and psychosomatic stress will depend which area in your body is weakened and where this toxicity, emotional, physically, is going to go sit, and then an element comes out. So if you look at the collective consciousness in terms of feeling attacked, we're looking at the immune system, we're looking at autoimmune disorders, we're looking at cardiovascular disease, we're going to be looking at cancer. The wave of cancer is going to dominate. We think it's bad now. Mm-hmm. It's going to completely dominate. Mm-hmm. It's going to be flu.
Right. Right.
That's what I see. And
so do we have one remedy? I'm teasing you. Do you hear what I said? Evette, did you hear what I said? I said, do we have one remedy for this?
Pardon?
I said, do we have one remedy for this? No. No. So, and then there's also the whole autism. There's so many children being born with autism right now. What are you finding about that?
Listen, we have to look. We've spent so much focus on spirituality that we fail to see, and we neglect the biology. We neglect the DNA lineage. We neglect the concept of evolution. When you look at your DNA lineage and you see someone with autism coming through, I know there's very beautiful, spiritual interpretations for that, which I agree with as well. Absolutely, there's a higher purpose to everything. But if we bring it back down to the basics, the reason why a person's body becomes into that state is because of the DNA lineage is trying to evolve. The DNA lineage is trying to change. And now what's happening is we're not doing anything to make those changes. The body is all about surviving. The body is all about becoming smarter and stronger and more intelligent in terms of creating an environment that it can thrive in. That's all that it wants. The body is an organism, and that's what organisms do. Now, what happens also is that it's pushing out all the flaws. It's pushing out all the aspects and the components and genetic markers that is not serving the DNA lineage.
Right.
It's pushing out, pushing it out, pushing it out, and then it's going to come to a bottleneck, and then it comes through into someone that has ailment. Now it comes through into someone that has a genetic disorder that's so, for example, cannot be healed. It comes through in someone that has a certain ailment that we don't know what to do with. That's the biology saying, I'm done. I'm done. You guys are not doing anything to fix this flaw in our DNA lineage. We need to resolve this somehow. Here's the problem.
Right. So do you think is that going to get worse also when you're...
If people don't take conscious action in the sense of starting to live a conscious life, starting to live a mindful life, then what choice do we leave the biological makeup? What choice do we leave for our DNA lineage? If we continue to live a destructive life, how do we expect the body to continue supporting us to do that? The body's not designed for that. The body's not designed to be abused, whether it's emotionally, physically, or psychologically, or with your crutches or with destructive behavior. It's not designed for that.
Right.
It's designed to support you to fulfill your life and to live your purpose. But now this has become like a massive opera show where people are just pouring and bleeding their pain out onto everyone, and everyone's blaming everyone for everything. It's become a mess.
I know.
And these pain points, these pain factors are taking place to call us into action. But instead of realizing that, we're getting more angry and we're lashing out even more. And the body's like, what are you doing? What are you doing?
Right.
I want to talk to you. Why are you doing this?
Right.
It's like, I thought we had an agreement to come live a purpose and fulfill your destiny. And now you're getting sidetracked with all this nonsense. What are you doing?
Right. And we think our body's not really listening. It's really taking everything in.
It's a sponge. It never stops.
Right.
And we don't realize how the body is constantly communicating with everything around us. Come on. I mean, it's... This body is an antenna. It's an active, super intelligent antenna.
Right.
We just don't know how to adjust the signal so that we can actually get reception. We're stuck like a radio station, but between stations, when you're stuck in that white noise, like that static noise, it's like we need to learn how to redirect the signals. Tap into the intelligence that you're surrounded by.
Right. Amazing. Your information is so thorough, so amazing, Evette. Thank you.
Thank you for
yeah. What if we have one message for everybody to live their highest, best, limitless life? What do you think that would be?
I would say stop getting caught up in the drama. Stop the drama. You need drama in order to create excitement. And if you do, then change your definition of what excitement is. Because excitement for me is to stay curious in your life, because it's through curiosity that we have breakthroughs, that scientists are coming up with new methods, that we're designing new technology. It's because these people continue to stay curious. And I invite you to tap back into that beautiful, playful curiosity within you, and we continue to be curious how we can change life and how we can tap into our greatest talents in constructive ways, in ways that promote your abilities, that allows you to feel motivated and passionate again, because we stop believing in something that we used to wake up to in the morning. And I invite you to find that beautiful, powerful thing in your life that you can wake up to, because now we've become so autopilot that we just wake up and we just live our life. Right. We need to start believing in something that we're passionate about, to reconnect to your passion, but do it for yourself, because then the curiosity is going to come back. Then the joy is going to come back.
Right.
So find something that excites you, that lights up that flame in your heart.
Right. And a life without passion is not a joyful life, for sure.
Oh, it's a little bit frustrating. Yeah. It's like changing gears and you can't quite get the gear.
Right. So tell us how people can get in touch with you. So I just trapped you into saying you were going to do a workshop in the United States.
I would love it. Listen,
at
guys,
some point soon.
If there's interest, let me know. I would have come to Boulder, but I feel the timing might be a little bit tight. But if there's people going out to saying, yay, let's do it from the 25th to the 29th of September, let me know. We'll make it happen. If not,
so I'm not here, so I'm not promoting that. But I'm. But if you have another time, I'll send you an email. That would be great. I'm sure you could fill it. I'm sure you could fill it up. But you do workshops all over the world, and I think you do online. You do online workshops too.
I have a level 1 online course as well at www.matlevelone.com, at matlevel1.com.
Oh, I'm going to post it. I'm going to post it underneath our interview so people will have access to it. And I recommend everybody to pick up some of her books, all of her books. And thank you so much. It's been so great speaking to you, and I'm sure our paths will cross very soon.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. And thank you everyone for joining as well. And until next time, be the light that you are.
Thank you. Thank you.